Scarlett Brooks was only 26, but life had already taught her how quickly dreams could disappear. 6 years earlier, she had smiled through happy tears as she told her boyfriend she was pregnant with their child, believing they were about to start a family together. Instead, he vanished without a word. His phone stopped working, his apartment was empty, and he was never seen again. Left alone with a newborn son, Scarlett buried her heartbreak and inherited her late father's small neighborhood bar, pouring every ounce of strength into keeping its doors open. Business had been slow for months, bills were piling up, and every dollar mattered. Upstairs, 6-year-old Henry slept peacefully in the tiny apartment above the bar because Scarlett couldn't afford a babysitter. Outside, rain hammered the streets as the clock crept toward closing time. Just as she flipped the sign to "Last Call," 3 glossy black SUVs rolled to a stop outside. 5 sharply dressed men stepped inside, their expensive suits looking strangely out of place in the modest bar. Among them was one man who didn't need to speak to command attention. Calm, composed, and unreadable, Carlos Marcello simply took a seat while the others waited for his lead. In this forgotten corner of the city, no one knew he was the most feared mafia boss in New York. To Scarlett, they were just wealthy businessmen looking for a late-night drink. She poured glasses of premium whiskey and carried them to their booth with a polite smile before returning to wipe down the counter. As she cleaned nearby, their voices drifted through the quiet room. "The district attorney dies tomorrow," one man said. "No loose ends," another replied. Carlos took a slow sip of whiskey before speaking in a voice so calm it sent a chill through the room. "Handle it." Scarlett's hand slipped. A glass crashed onto the wooden floor, shattering into dozens of pieces. The entire bar fell silent. Carlos slowly lifted his eyes and looked directly at her. Scarlett forced a nervous smile and whispered, I'm so sorry." The last customer walked out, and the silence that followed felt unusually heavy. Scarlett locked the front door, counted the small amount of cash in the register, switched off the neon bar sign, and sighed as she looked around the nearly empty room that barely earned enough to survive. She grabbed Henry's favorite stuffed bear from behind the counter and started toward the staircase leading to the apartment above, eager to check on her sleeping son. Outside, an unmarked black SUV quietly rolled to the curb with its headlights off. Before Scarlett could reach the first step, the back door burst open. 2 masked men rushed inside, one covering her mouth while the other grabbed her arms. She struggled desperately, knocking over chairs and bottles, but within seconds they dragged her outside and threw her into the waiting SUV before speeding into the rainy night. Moments later, Henry woke to the sound of the door slamming below. Rubbing his sleepy eyes, he called, "Mom." Receiving no answer, he slowly walked downstairs, finding the bar empty, the front door slightly open, and broken glass still scattered across the floor. Fear filled his little face as tears streamed down his cheeks. "Mom," he cried again, but only the sound of the falling rain answered him. 3 years earlier, Scarlett's entire world revolved around saving her little boy. 3-year-old Henry had been rushed to the hospital with a severe infection, and for nearly a week she barely left his bedside, surviving on vending machine coffee and sleepless nights. Across the hallway was another patient unlike anyone Scarlett had ever seen. Even beneath the bandages covering much of her body, the woman carried herself with quiet elegance, yet there was a deep sadness in her eyes. Armed security guards stood outside her room day and night, but whenever they stepped away, Scarlett noticed the woman sitting alone in silence. Feeling sorry for her, Scarlett began stopping by for a few minutes each day while Henry rested. The woman introduced herself simply as Aurora, never mentioning her family or why she was surrounded by guards. Their conversations became the brightest part of Aurora's lonely days, and for the first time since arriving at the hospital, she found comfort in someone who treated her not as an important woman, but simply as another human being. One quiet evening, the guards protecting Aurora suddenly rushed out after receiving an urgent call from the hallway. Left alone for the first time in days, Aurora looked toward the door before turning to Scarlett with trembling eyes. "I don't have much time," she whispered. With shaking hands, she removed a silver necklace from around her neck and opened a tiny hidden compartment that held a small safety deposit box key. She pressed it into Scarlett's palm. "If you ever meet my husband," she said weakly. Scarlett leaned closer and asked softly, "What's his name?" A faint smile crossed Aurora's lips. "Carlos Marcello." Scarlett repeated the name quietly, committing it to memory. Aurora tightened her grip on Scarlett's hand and struggled to speak one last warning. "Don't trust anyone. The man eating beside my husband wants him dead." Before Scarlett could ask another question, Aurora's breathing slowed, her hand slipped away, and the heart monitor let out one long, heartbreaking tone. Scarlett hid the necklace exactly as Aurora had asked, but despite searching for years, she never found the mysterious man named Carlos Marcello. Scarlett's wrists were tightly bound as she knelt on the cold concrete floor of an abandoned warehouse, surrounded by armed men whose faces revealed no mercy. Carlos Marcello stood a few feet away with his hands in his coat pockets, his expression calm and unreadable. After a long silence, he gave a simple order. "Kill her." One of his men stepped forward and pressed a pistol against the back of Scarlett's head. Tears filled her eyes as she realized she would never see Henry again. Then, with every ounce of courage she had left, she screamed, "Carlos Marcello." The warehouse fell completely silent. Carlos slowly turned around, his eyes narrowing as he stared at the terrified young mother. Fighting back tears, Scarlett looked straight at him and whispered, "Aurora, your wife, asked me to find you." Not a single man moved. Even the gunman lowered his weapon slightly as Carlos stood frozen, unable to believe the name he had not heard spoken in 3 long years. With tears streaming down her face, Scarlett told Carlos everything she had kept hidden for 3 years. She spoke about meeting Aurora in the hospital while caring for her sick son, about their quiet conversations, and about the lonely woman who feared someone close to her husband. Scarlett removed the silver necklace she had guarded all those years and handed him the hidden safety deposit key. Carlos stared at it in disbelief, his hands beginning to shake. He had always been told Aurora died the moment the explosion happened and never had the chance to speak. For the first time in years, the feared Mafia boss broke down in tears. Within an hour, he unlocked the private vault Aurora had left behind. Inside were photographs, financial records, and documents exposing a terrible truth. Every piece of evidence pointed to one man, his closest friend and most trusted lieutenant, Grayson. The man Carlos had called a brother had betrayed him from the very beginning. Carlos turned each page of Aurora's records with growing horror. Hidden bank transfers revealed that Grayson had stolen tens of millions of dollars from the organization over several years, quietly building his own criminal empire while pretending to be Carlos's most loyal friend. The files also exposed secret meetings with corrupt politicians, judges, and police officials who had protected Grayson's operations in exchange for enormous bribes. Worst of all, Aurora had uncovered everything before anyone else. Fearing she would expose him, Grayson ordered the bomb that was meant to kill Carlos, but Aurora unknowingly took the car instead. To hide his betrayal, Grayson blamed a rival Mafia family, manipulating Carlos into launching a brutal war that claimed countless innocent lives. As the truth settled in, Carlos realized every order he had given, every enemy he had destroyed, and every drop of blood spilled had been part of Grayson's plan. The empire he had spent years building had never truly belonged to him, it had been controlled by the monster standing beside him all along. The moment Grayson learned Scarlett was still alive, he knew the truth had reached Carlos. Without hesitation, he ordered his most trusted assassins to eliminate everyone connected to Aurora's secret, including Scarlett and her young son. Refusing to let another innocent life be destroyed, Carlos secretly brought Scarlett and Henry to a heavily guarded mansion hidden far outside the city. At first, Scarlett feared Carlos as much as the men hunting them, but Henry saw something different. The little boy slowly warmed to the quiet man who taught him how to play chess, fixed his broken toy truck, and made sure he never went to bed hungry. For the first time since Aurora's death, Carlos found himself laughing again, protecting not an empire, but a family. As danger closed in, he made a silent promise to Aurora's memory that no one would ever harm Scarlett or Henry while he was still alive. Grayson knew Carlos was coming and turned his heavily guarded estate into a battlefield. As night fell, gunfire erupted from every corner of the mansion, with bullets tearing through walls and windows while Carlos fought his way forward, refusing to stop until he faced the man who had stolen everything from him. One by one, Grayson's soldiers fell until only the two former friends remained standing in the grand hall. Grayson laughed without fear, admitting he had betrayed Carlos from the very beginning. He confessed to stealing the money, bribing powerful officials, framing rival families, and ordering the bomb that killed Aurora because she had discovered his secret. "You were always too blinded by love to see the truth," Grayson sneered. Carlos raised his pistol, his eyes filled not with rage but heartbreak. Without another word, he pulled the trigger. The shot echoed through the empty mansion as Grayson collapsed to the floor. At last, Aurora had the justice she had been denied, and Carlos finally ended the nightmare that had haunted him for 3 long years. Months passed, and Carlos anonymously delivered every document, recording, and financial record exposing Grayson's criminal network to federal authorities. One by one, corrupt officials were arrested, hidden bank accounts were frozen, and the Marcelo crime empire crumbled into history. When the investigations ended, Carlos Marcelo disappeared without a trace. Some believed he had fled the country, while others whispered that he had started a new life under another name, but no one ever saw him again. Back in the neighborhood, Scarlett's bar slowly became one of the busiest spots in town. Customers admired her determination, and word spread about the warm little place where everyone felt at home. Henry was finally living the happy childhood his mother had always dreamed of giving him. One peaceful morning, Scarlett unlocked the front door and noticed a neatly wrapped package resting on the doorstep. Inside was a beautifully engraved silver cocktail shaker, along with a handwritten letter. With trembling hands, she unfolded the note and quietly read the words, "Aurora chose the right person. Thank you for saving what was left of my soul." A gentle smile crossed Scarlett's face as she looked over at Henry laughing with customers inside the bar. She knew she would probably never see Carlos again, but she also knew Aurora's final wish had changed all of their lives forever. If this story touched your heart and kept you watching until the very end, don't forget to like this video, share it with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel for more unforgettable stories of suspense, justice, and redemption. We'd also love to hear from you in the comments. If you were Scarlett, would you have trusted Carlos after discovering who he really was? Let us know your answer below, and we'll see you in the next incredible story.